Captain Chen stood at the viewport of the orbital research station, watching Earth slowly rotate below. The blue marble looked peaceful from here, but she knew better. Humanity had been preparing for this moment for decades. The final test of their most ambitious project was about to begin. "Zara, we're ready," called Dr. Marcus Webb from across the laboratory. His voice carried a mixture of excitement and terror that made her stomach clench. "The destroyer drive is online." She turned away from the window, her dark eyes scanning the massive chamber. The device dominated the room, a sleek metallic cylinder wrapped in quantum field generators and neural interface ports. It looked harmless enough, but Zara knew this machine could reshape the galaxy forever. "Are you certain about the calculations?" she asked, walking toward the control panel where Marcus stood with his team. "As certain as we can be," replied Dr. Elena Vasquez, the project's lead physicist. Her Spanish accent made every word sound like music, even when discussing potential universal destruction. "The quantum tunneling algorithms are perfect. The space-time manipulation protocols are flawless. But Zara, once we activate this thing, there's no going back." Zara nodded grimly. Humanity had discovered faster-than-light travel, but their version came with a unique twist. Instead of simply moving through space, the destroyer drive destroyed and recreated matter at the quantum level, allowing instantaneous travel across any distance. The implications were staggering. "Commander Chen," interrupted Lieutenant Jake Morrison from the communications console, "we're receiving an urgent transmission from the Galactic Council. They're demanding we cease all FTL experiments immediately." Zara laughed bitterly. "Oh, how convenient. The Council suddenly cares about our little backwater species the moment we achieve something they couldn't." The view screen flickered to life, revealing the grotesque form of Ambassador Zefkar, the reptilian delegate who had made humanity's life miserable for the past century. His scaled features twisted into what might have been a smile, but looked more like a threat. "Humans," he hissed, his forked tongue flicking between razor-sharp teeth. "You will terminate your FTL research immediately. Such technology is beyond your primitive understanding." Zara stepped forward, her jaw clenched. "Ambassador, with all due respect, shove your demands where your scales don't shine. We've been asking for FTL technology for 200 years. You've denied us every single time. Because you are not ready," Zefkar replied coldly. "Your species is violent, unpredictable, and dangerous. We cannot allow you to spread beyond your solar system." "Cannot allow?" Zara's voice rose dangerously. "Who made you the gatekeepers of the galaxy? Last I checked, space belongs to everyone." The ambassador's eyes narrowed to slits. "You forget your place. Human, we have kept your species contained for your good. If you activate that device, there will be consequences." "Consequences?" Zara laughed harshly. "You mean like the trade embargo you've maintained for 50 years? The technology restrictions? The constant surveillance? We're already living with your consequences, reptile brain." Marcus stepped beside her, his voice calm but firm. "Ambassador, our research is completely peaceful. We're simply trying to explore the galaxy, just like every other species has a right to do." "Peaceful?" Zefkar's laugh was a terrible sound. "We know what humans do with new technology. You weaponize everything. Your history proves this." "Our history also shows we can change," Elena interjected, her scientific mind always seeking logic. "We've had nuclear weapons for centuries without destroying ourselves. We've learned cooperation and restraint." "Lies," spat the ambassador. "You will shut down that device, or we will shut it down for you." Zara's expression hardened. "Is that a threat?" "It is a promise." The transmission cut off, leaving the laboratory in tense silence. Zara stared at the blank screen for a long moment, then turned to her team. "Well, that settles it," she said with grim determination. "We're not just testing this drive anymore. We're sending a message to every species in the galaxy that humanity will not be caged." "Zara," Marcus warned, "if we activate the destroyer drive now, it could be seen as an act of war." "Good," she replied coldly. "Maybe it's time they learn what humans do when backed into a corner." Lieutenant Morrison spoke up hesitantly. "Commander, I'm detecting multiple ships approaching our position. Council fleet, at least 50 vessels. Sarah's smile was sharp as a blade. Perfect timing. Marcus, how long until the drive is ready? 10 minutes for full initialization, he replied, his fingers flying over control panels. But Sarah, we've never tested at full power. We don't know what will happen. Then we're about to find out, she said, settling into the command chair. Elena, begin the startup sequence. Jake, open a channel to the entire galaxy. Time to give them a proper introduction to humanity. The laboratory filled with a humming of charging field generators as the destroyer drive came online. Warning lights flashed across every console as energy levels climbed toward critical thresholds. Channel open, Jake announced. Sarah stood, her voice carrying across the stars. Attention, Galactic Council, and all species listening. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran Research Division. For 2 centuries, you have treated humanity as children, denying us the technology and freedom that is our birthright. Today, that changes. On the tactical display, the Council fleet had formed a blockade around the research station. Their weapons were charging, ready to fire on the first sign of FTL activation. You want to see what humans do with advanced technology? Sarah continued, her voice growing more intense. You're about to get a demonstration. We don't just build faster-than-light drives. We build destroyers. And today, we're going to show you exactly what that means. Marcus looked up from his console, sweat beading on his forehead. Sarah, the quantum field is approaching critical mass. If we don't activate it soon, the whole station could implode. Then let's not keep our guests waiting, she replied, her hand hovering over the activation switch. Elena, what's our target? The vegan system, Elena replied, checking her calculations one final time. Their capital world. It's 27 light years away. If this works, we'll arrive instantaneously. And if it doesn't work? Jake asked nervously. Sarah's grin was predatory. Then we'll go out with the biggest bang in galactic history. The Council fleet began moving closer, their weapons powering up. Sarah could see the fear in their formation, the way they hesitated to approach the human station. They had no idea what the destroyer drive was capable of, and that uncertainty was eating at them. Last chance, humans, came Zeth Karr's voice over the comm. Power down your device and surrender for processing. Processing. Sarah laughed. You mean execution? No. Thank you, Ambassador. We have a better idea. She slammed her hand down on the activation switch. The universe exploded. The destroyer drive didn't just bend space-time. It shattered it. Reality itself screamed as the quantum field expanded outward, disintegrating matter at the subatomic level while simultaneously reconstructing it 27 light-years away. The process was instantaneous, violent, and terrifying. The Council fleet, watching from a safe distance, witnessed something that would haunt their dreams forever. The human research station didn't disappear gradually or fade away like normal FTL travel. It simply ceased to exist in one location and appeared in another, leaving behind a perfectly spherical void in space where it had been. But the destroyer drive's effects didn't stop there. The quantum shockwave continued expanding, disintegrating everything in its path. Council ships that had been positioned too close simply vanished, their atoms scattered across the quantum foam. The survivors watched in horror as a sphere of absolute nothingness grew outward from where the human station had been. By the Ancient Ones, whispered Admiral Korrath from a bridge of the Council flagship. What have they done? 27 light-years away, Sarah and her team materialized in the heart of the vegan system. The capital world of Vega Prime hung before them, a massive blue-green planet surrounded by orbital habitats and defense platforms. Holy shit, Marcus breathed, staring at the tactical display. It worked. We did it. More than that, Elena said, her voice filled with awe and terror. Look at the quantum readings. The destroyer drive didn't just transport us. It created a permanent disruption in space-time at our departure point. Sarah studied the data, her mind racing. You mean we created a dead zone? Worse, Elena replied. We created an expanding sphere of quantum destruction. Anything that enters that area will be completely disintegrated, and it's still growing. Before anyone could respond, the vegan defense fleet began moving toward them. Dozens of sleek warships, their weapons charging with menacing energy. Zara watched them approach with cold satisfaction. "Open a channel to the vegan high command," she ordered. The view screen flickered to life, revealing the elegant features of Admiral Lyra Stardust, the vegan fleet commander. Her ethereal beauty was marred by obvious fear and confusion. "Unknown vessel," she said, her melodious voice trembling slightly. "You have violated vegan space. Identify yourself immediately." "Admiral Stardust," Zara replied pleasantly. "I'm Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran Research Division. We're here to discuss humanity's future in the galaxy." "Humans?" Lyra's eyes widened. "That's impossible. Your species doesn't have FTL capability. You're confined to the Sol system." "We were confined," Zara corrected. "Past tense. As you can see, we've solved that little problem." "How did you get here?" Lyra demanded. "What kind of drive system could transport you across such a distance instantaneously?" Sarah's smile was cold and dangerous. "We call it the destroyer drive. And, Admiral, you're about to find out why." Without warning, Sarah activated the drive again. But this time, instead of transporting the entire station, she used it as a weapon. The quantum field lanced out toward the nearest vegan warship, and the results were immediate and terrifying. The ship didn't explode. It didn't burn. It simply stopped existing. One moment, it was a kilometer-long dreadnought bristling with weapons. The next, it was space. The crew, the hull, the ammunition, everything was disintegrated at the quantum level and scattered across dimensions. "Impossible," Lyra whispered, her face pale with shock. "No weapon can do that." "Human weapons can," Sarah replied matter-of-factly. "We don't just build technology, Admiral. We build solutions. And our solution to the Council's oppression is complete annihilation." The remaining vegan ships began backing away, their captains suddenly understanding the true horror of what they faced. This wasn't just a new FTL drive. It was a weapon of absolute destruction, capable of erasing matter from existence itself. "You're insane," Lyra said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You could destroy the entire galaxy with that thing." "Could we?" Sarah mused, as if considering the possibility for the first time. "Marcus, run the calculations. If we use a destroyer drive at maximum power, how large could we make the disruption field?" Marcus worked frantically at his console, his face growing paler with each calculation. "Sarah, according to these numbers, if we fed the entire output of a star into the drive, we could create a disruption field several light years across." "Several light years," Sarah repeated thoughtfully. "That's about the size of the vegan system, isn't it?" "You wouldn't dare," Lyra said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Wouldn't I?" Sarah asked. "Admiral, your species has participated in keeping humanity trapped in our solar system for 2 centuries. You've denied us trade, technology, and basic respect. Give me one good reason why I shouldn't turn your entire system into a dead zone." The silence stretched for long moments. Finally, Lyra spoke, her voice broken. "What do you want?" "Justice," Sarah replied simply. "But I'll settle for respect. Send a message to the Galactic Council. Tell them humanity is no longer asking for permission to explore the galaxy. We're taking it." "The Council will never accept this," Lyra protested. "They'll unite every species against you." "Let them try," Sarah said with a laugh. "Do you know what happens to normal matter when it encounters a quantum disruption field? It gets absorbed and converted into more disruption. The more they send against us, the stronger our weapons become." As if to prove her point, one of the vegan ships fired a probe toward the research station. The moment it touched the quantum field surrounding the human vessel, it vanished completely. The field pulsed brighter, having absorbed the probe's mass and energy. "Sweet Jesus," Jake muttered from his console. "We're not just untouchable. We're getting stronger." Sarah nodded grimly. "Send a message, Admiral. Tell the Council that humanity has evolved beyond their ability to contain us. We're not just joining the galactic community. We're reshaping it." The transmission ended, leaving the research station alone in the heart of vegan space. Around them, The defense fleet maintained a respectful distance, their weapons powered down in a gesture of submission. "Zara," Marcus said quietly, "what we become?" She turned to him, and for the first time since the crisis began, her expression softened. "We become free, Marcus. For the first time in 2 centuries, humanity is truly free. But at what cost?" Elena asked. "We've essentially declared war on the entire galaxy." "No," Zara replied. "We've declared independence." "There's a difference." The communication console chimed with an incoming message. Jake checked the readout and paled. "Commander, it's from Earth. Priority 1. Zara nodded. "Put it through." The view screen filled with the weathered face of General Harrison Burke, the head of Terran Defense Command. His gray eyes were hard as steel, but Zara could see the pride beneath the surface. "Captain Chen," he said formally, "I trust your field test was successful?" "Beyond our wildest expectations, sir," Zara replied. "The destroyer drive is fully operational. We've demonstrated its capabilities to the vegan fleet and sent a message to the Council." "Good," Burke said with grim satisfaction, "because we're about to send an even stronger message. How long until you can return to Sol?" "Instantly, sir. The drive doesn't require recharge time." "Then get back here immediately. We have visitors." The transmission ended, leaving Sarah's team in tense silence. She looked around at her colleagues, these brilliant scientists who had accidentally created the most powerful weapon in galactic history. "Well," she said finally, "I guess the real test is just beginning." The return journey to Sol took less than a second. One moment they were in the vegan system, the next they were back in Earth orbit. But the space around their home planet had changed dramatically. Hundreds of Council ships filled the void, their hulls gleaming in the light of Earth's sun. Dreadnoughts, carriers, battlecruisers. The assembled fleet represented a combined might of dozens of species. It was the largest armada in galactic history, and it was all pointed at humanity's homeworld. "Jesus Christ," Marcus whispered. "They're not taking any chances." Sarah studied the tactical display, her mind calculating odds and possibilities. "Jake, scan the fleet. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with." "Over 300 ships," Jake reported. "Every major species is represented. Reptilian dreadnoughts, insectoid swarm fighters, aquatic carriers, even the energy beings have manifested physical vessels." "They're scared," Elena observed. "This isn't just a show of force. They're terrified of what we might do next." Sarah nodded. "Good. Fear is the beginning of respect." The communication console erupted with incoming messages. Council officials, Earth government leaders, and even individual ship captains are all trying to reach the research station. Sarah ignored them all until one particular signal caught her attention. "Commander," Jake said, his voice strange. "We're receiving a personal message. It's from President Martinez." Sarah frowned. President Carmen Martinez was a tough, no-nonsense leader who had spent her entire career fighting for human rights in the galaxy. If she was calling personally, the situation was even more serious than it appeared. "Put her through," Sarah ordered. The view screen filled with the determined face of Earth's leader. President Martinez was a small woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen too much, but her voice carried the authority of humanity's democratic will. "Captain Chen," she said without preamble, "I need you to listen very carefully. The Council has issued an ultimatum. Either we surrender you and your team for execution, or they will implement a complete blockade of the Sol system. No trade, no communication, no contact with the outside galaxy whatsoever." Sarah's expression hardened. "And your response, Madam President?" "I told them to go to hell," Martinez replied with a slight smile. "But Sarah, we need to be smart about this. That fleet out there represents billions of beings. We can't fight them all." "We don't have to fight them all," Sarah said. "We just have to show them what happens when they threaten humanity." "Sarah, no," Marcus interjected. "If you use a destroyer drive against that fleet, you'll be committing genocide on a scale never seen in galactic history." She turned to him, her eyes blazing with cold fury. "And if we don't, humanity will spend the rest of eternity as slaves to species that consider us inferior. Sometimes, Marcus, The only way to achieve peace is through superior firepower. President Martinez spoke again, her voice carefully controlled. Captain, I'm not ordering you to surrender, but I am asking you to consider the consequences of your actions. If you escalate this conflict, there may be no going back. There's already no going back, Zara replied. The moment we activated the destroyer drive, we changed the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The Council knows this. That's why they're here. As if summoned by her words, a new transmission began broadcasting on all frequencies. The view screen split to show Ambassador Zefkar, but he was no longer alone. Representatives from every major species stood behind him, their faces grim with shared purpose. Humans of Earth, Zefkar began, his voice carrying across the solar system. You have committed an act of unparalleled aggression against the civilized galaxy. Your weapon of mass destruction threatens the very fabric of space-time itself. Zara laughed bitterly. Mass destruction? We destroyed one ship, Reptile. Your species has wiped out entire worlds in the name of Council peace. That was different, Zefkar hissed. Those were necessary actions against primitive cultures that refused to accept galactic law. Primitive cultures like humanity? Zara shot back. How convenient that everyone who disagrees with you is suddenly primitive. Behind Zefkar, a new figure stepped forward. Zara recognized her as High Counselor Vera Starlight, the energy being who served as the Council's supreme leader. Her form was barely corporeal, shifting between matter and pure energy as she spoke. Captain Chen, Vera said, her voice echoing with otherworldly harmonics. Your species has crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. The destroyer drive you have created violates every principle of galactic law. It must be destroyed. Galactic law? Sarah's voice dripped with sarcasm. The same law that condemned humanity to eternal imprisonment in our solar system? The same law that denies us basic rights while granting them to every other species? I think we'll pass on your law. Counselor, you do not understand the consequences of your actions, Vera continued, her form pulsing with agitation. The quantum disruptions you have created are spreading. Already, 3 systems have reported space-time anomalies. If this continues, you could destabilize the entire galaxy. Zara paused, considering this information. She turned to Elena, who was frantically checking her calculations. Is that possible? Zara asked quietly. Elena's face was pale. The disruption fields are quantum entangled. If enough of them exist simultaneously, they could create a cascade effect. The fabric of space-time could become unstable across vast regions. How vast? Zara pressed. Potentially the entire galaxy, Elena admitted. Zara absorbed this information, her mind racing. She had wanted to send a message to the Council, to force them to treat humanity as equals. But she hadn't intended to threaten the existence of all life in the galaxy. Madam President, she said slowly, I need to speak with my team privately. Of course, Captain. But remember, you have less than an hour before the Council implements its blockade. The transmission ended, leaving Zara alone with her colleagues. For the first time since the crisis began, she felt the weight of uncertainty. Well, she said finally, this is an interesting development. Marcus stepped forward, his face earnest. Zara, if what the Council says is true, we have to consider shutting down the drive. We can't risk destabilizing the galaxy. Can't we? Zara asked. Marcus, think about what they're asking. They want us to give up the one advantage we have, the one thing that makes them treat us as equals instead of pets. But if using could destroy everything, Elena protested, what choice do we have? Zara walked to the viewport, staring out at the assembled Council fleet. Hundreds of ships, representing combined will of dozens of species, all united in their determination to keep humanity contained. We have the choice every oppressed people throughout history has faced, she said quietly. Do we accept our chains for the promise of safety, or do we fight for our freedom knowing the risks? Jake spoke up hesitantly. Commander, what if there's a third option? What if we could use the drive defensively instead of offensively? Zara turned to him, intrigued. Explain. Well, Jake continued, growing more confident. The quantum disruption fields don't just destroy matter. They also prevent normal space-time from functioning. If we create a field around the Sol system, nothing could get in or out using conventional technology. A fortress, Marcus breathed. You're talking about turning our entire solar system into an impregnable fortress. Exactly, Jake said. We wouldn't need to threaten anyone. We'd just be protecting ourselves. Sarah considered this possibility, her mind working through the implications. Elena, could we create a stable disruption field around the entire solar system? Theoretically, yes, Elena replied slowly, but it would require enormous amounts of energy. We'd need to tap directly into the sun's output. And once it was active, Sarah pressed. Nothing could penetrate it, Elena said. No ships, no weapons, no communications. We'd be completely isolated, but also completely safe. Sarah smiled grimly. Complete isolation. Do you know what that means? Marcus frowned. That we'd be cut off from the rest of the galaxy forever? No, Sarah said. It means we'd be free to develop our technology without interference. Free to explore our solar system without council oversight. Free to become whatever we're capable of becoming. She turned back to the viewport, watching the council fleet with new eyes. They want to contain us? Fine. Let them try. But they're going to discover that there's a difference between containing someone and trapping yourself outside their territory. The communication console chimed with an incoming priority signal. Sarah nodded to Jake, who opened the channel. Ambassador Zefkar's scaled face filled the screen, his eyes burning with impatience. Human vessel, you have 10 minutes to surrender yourselves and your weapon. This is your final warning. Sarah stepped forward, her voice calm and controlled. Ambassador, I have a counterproposal. Withdraw your fleet from the Sol system immediately, and we'll consider not turning your homeworld into a quantum dead zone. You dare threaten us? Zefkar hissed. You are one ship against hundreds. You cannot possibly believe you can win this confrontation. Win. Sarah laughed. Ambassador, we've already won. We've proven that humanity is capable of developing technology that makes us your equals. The question now is whether you're wise enough to accept that fact. Never, Zefkar spat. The Council will never accept humans as equals. You are a disease that must be contained. Then you've made your choice, Sarah replied. Jake, open a channel to the entire fleet. Let's give them something to remember. As the communication links activated, Sarah stood tall, her voice carrying across the void to every ship in the assembled armada. Attention, Council forces, she began. You came here today to demand our surrender. You wanted to prove that humanity is still weak, still dependent on your permission to exist. You were wrong. She paused, letting her words sink in across hundreds of ships. What you're witnessing today is not just the birth of human FTL technology. It's the birth of human independence. We are no longer asking for your permission to explore the galaxy. We are no longer begging for your approval to advance our civilization. We are done being your pets. The tactical display showed ships throughout the fleet beginning to move, their formations shifting as captains prepare for battle. You want to contain us? Sarah continued. You want to keep us trapped in our solar system? Then congratulations, you've succeeded. But you're about to learn that there's a difference between containing someone and protecting yourself from them. She turned to Elena, who was standing ready at the destroyer drive controls. Do it. Elena's hands moved across the control panel, and the quantum field generators began to hum with building energy. But this time, instead of focusing the field into a weapon, they were spreading it outward, creating a vast barrier around the entire solar system. Elena, Sarah called out, I want you to modulate the field frequency, make it visible to their sensors, but unstable enough that they can't predict its behavior. Understood, Elena replied, her fingers dancing across the controls. The effect was immediate and terrifying. A shimmering wall of quantum energy began to form at the edge of the solar system, growing brighter and more chaotic with each passing moment. Council ships that had been positioned near the barrier began pulling back as their sensors detected the massive energy readings. By the Ancient Ones came a voice over the open channel. They're creating a barrier around the entire system. Sarah smiled coldly. Not just a barrier, Captain. A weapon. Every ship that tries to cross that field will be disintegrated at the quantum level. And every gram of matter that gets absorbed makes the field stronger. The panic in the Council fleet was palpable. Ships began retreating from the growing barrier, their captains suddenly understanding the true scope of human technological advancement. But here's the beautiful part, Zara continued, her voice taking on a tone of dark satisfaction. The field isn't just defensive, it's adaptive. Every time you try to penetrate it, it learns from your attempt. Every weapon you fire at it makes it more resistant to that type of attack. Ambassador Zefkar's voice cut through the chaos. This is madness. You're isolating yourselves from the entire galaxy. No, Zara replied. We're protecting ourselves from you. There's a difference. She turned to her team, her expression softening slightly. Marcus, Elena, Jake, you've all done incredible work today. But I need you to understand something. What we created here isn't just a weapon or a defense system. It's a statement. We're telling the galaxy that humanity will not be contained, controlled, or exterminated. But Sarah, Marcus protested, isolation isn't the answer. We need contact with other species to grow and develop. Do we? Sarah asked. Marcus, look at what we've accomplished in just a few hours without their help. We've created technology that makes their entire fleet obsolete. Imagine what we could achieve with a few decades of uninterrupted development. The quantum barrier was now fully formed, a shimmering wall of destructive energy that encompassed the entire solar system. No ship could enter or leave without being destroyed, and the field was growing stronger with each passing moment. Besides, Sarah continued, who says this has to be permanent? The barrier is under our control. We can lower it whenever we choose. But until the Council learns to treat humanity as equals, it stays up. President Martinez appeared on the screen again, her face a mixture of awe and concern. Captain Chen, what you've accomplished today is remarkable. But I have to ask, what happens now? How do we move forward from here? Sarah considered the question carefully. Madam President, for the first time in human history, we have complete control over our destiny. No Council interference, no trade restrictions, no technology limitations. We can explore our solar system, develop our science, and grow at our own pace. And when we're ready, Martinez pressed. When we're ready, Sarah said with a smile that was both beautiful and terrifying, we'll lower the barrier and rejoin the galaxy, but we'll do it as equals, not as supplicants. The communication console erupted with messages from across the galaxy. Species that had supported the Council's policies were now demanding emergency sessions. Worlds that had been neutral were suddenly interested in opening diplomatic relations with humanity. The balance of power was shifting, and everyone could feel it. Sarah, Elena said quietly, I'm detecting something interesting. The quantum field is interfacing with our solar system's magnetic field. It's creating a resonance effect. What kind of effect? Sarah asked. The field is amplifying solar radiation and channeling it into usable energy. We're essentially turning our entire star into a power source for the barrier. Sarah's eyes widened. Are you saying we have unlimited power? Not unlimited, Elena corrected, but vast. Enough to maintain the barrier indefinitely, and enough to power technological development on a scale we've never imagined. Jake looked up from his console, his face excited. Commander, I'm reading massive energy signatures from the asteroid belt. It looks like the quantum field is affecting the raw materials out there. What kind of effect? Sarah asked. It's restructuring matter at the atomic level, Jake replied, creating new elements, new compounds. Some of these readings don't match anything in our periodic table. Sarah felt a thrill of excitement run through her. New elements, new materials. More than that, Marcus said, studying the data. The field is creating a laboratory environment across the entire solar system. We could develop technologies that would have taken centuries to discover. Sarah walked to the viewport, staring out at the quantum barrier that now protected humanity from the galaxy beyond. It shimmered with unleashed power, a testament to human ingenuity and determination. You know what this means? She said quietly. What? Marcus asked. We're not just surviving anymore. We're evolving. The final transmission came from High Counselor Vera Starlight, her energy form fluctuating with what might have been resignation. "Captain Chen," she said, her voice carrying across the void. "The Council acknowledges your independence. But understand this. Isolation is not strength. You may have protected yourselves from us, but you have also cut yourselves off from the knowledge and friendship of countless civilizations." Sarah smiled, and for the first time in hours, it was genuinely warm. "Counselor, we haven't cut ourselves off from anything. We've simply changed the terms of engagement. When humanity next encounters a galaxy, it will be as equals, not as subjects." "And when will that be?" Vera asked. Sarah looked around at her team, these brilliant minds who had given humanity the stars. "When we're ready, Counselor. When we're ready." The transmission ended, leaving the research station in peaceful silence. Outside, the Council fleet was beginning to withdraw. Their mission had failed, and their authority was challenged. The quantum barrier pulsed with steady energy, a wall of protective force that would guard humanity while it grew into something the galaxy had never seen before. "So," Marcus said finally, "what do we do now?" Sarah turned from the viewport, her eyes bright with possibility. "Now, my friends, we get to work. We have a solar system to explore, technologies to develop, and a future to build. And for the first time in human history, we get to do it our way." As the research station began its journey back to Earth, the quantum barrier settled into its eternal vigil. Humanity was alone in the cosmos, but it was alone by choice, not by force. And in the depths of space, protected by a wall of destructive energy, the human species began its transformation from a contained civilization into something far greater. The Council had wanted to keep humanity caged. Instead, they had given them the motivation to break free entirely. And in the years to come, when the barrier finally lowered and humanity emerged into galaxy once more, they would discover that their former captors had become their equals at last. The age of human independence had begun.